Right now, everything is out there for us to learn because this is a day of the age of information.
Amen.
We have things coming over the airwaves. We have tons of things being poured into us from the internet. People walk around all the time with their cell phones connected to their ears. We are 100% connected to all the things that are going on. The only problem is that the airwaves are being controlled by the agents of Satan.
That's it.
That's the main thing. Now, don't get me wrong, because God is using the airways also. But it's like the majority of the knowledge that you're getting here is coming through agents of Satan. Because God is still focused like this. So you have this much knowledge from man and all the rest from Satan. And you can see what the difference is. You can see that all this is coming from Satan. This is coming from God. And you can see the difference. There's a small amount coming from God and a large amount coming from the world. Because Satan, God gave me some revelation knowledge, y'all. And I'm going to share it with you right now. When God created man, when God created the world, he created a world inside of a world. You know, God is a spirit. And we must worship him in spirit and in truth.
Amen.
But when God created the physical world, he kind of wrapped that world, the physical world, around what already existed, which is the spiritual world. And he did that by speaking out of the spiritual and making it physical. That's why words are so important. That's why what you say, because what you're doing when you sit in a chair, you're standing on the word. When you walk around touching a plant, you're standing on the word. Because God spoke all of these things into existence, from the spiritual into the natural. So everything that you're seeing right now is a word from God.
Amen.
But that word from God is being skewed in a lot of ways by Satan. Now, the knowledge that he showed me, he told me that we have a world inside of a world. That's why you see more in the physical than you do in the spiritual. But the spiritual is all around you. But you just can't have that vision of the spiritual. Because what happened was this. When he made man, initially, man could see the spirit and he could see the physical. But with that knowledge, his eyes became blinded to the spiritual. Because Satan wanted him to say, the only thing that was there was what you can see. And a lot of doctrine that's being preached right now is that the only thing is you. You are God. You, whatever you see, the physical is what? Because people started worshiping the moon that they could see, the sun that they could see, trees and nature, things that they could see. They took their eyes off of that spiritual Father, the spiritual God, and put it onto the natural. And right now, that's what's happening with us. We have all these things that are in the natural, and we're not focused on what's really important, which is God the Father, the spiritual. And it was because of that Jesus was born into the world.
Amen.
Jesus was born into the world so that we can take our eyes off of the natural, the physical things we can see, and put our eyes back on the Father. He came mainly just to draw our eyes off of the physical and put them back on the spiritual. Jesus said to love one another as the Father has loved you. He wants your eyes off of the natural and onto the physical. Off of the physical, rather, and onto the spiritual. Now, I know you might be saying, well, what does this have to do with leaven and knowledge? And I'm going to tell you what it has to do. Because man is a shell. You are a spiritual being and a natural shell. You are a spiritual being and a physical shell. Your spirit needs God for life. Your spirit needs God for life. You are more than flesh and blood. That flesh and blood is just a shell. That's how come when you leave this planet, when you leave, when you die, you're not, death is just the beginning. It really is. Because what happens is you put down this physical and you put on immortality because your spirit does not die. Your spirit lives the whole time. It does not die. So, what you learn right now, what you learn impacting your brain, impacting your mind. That's what this is about. What's impacting your mind is what this is about. So let's think about what are some things that are not like God that are coming across that are affecting your mind, the leaven of the world. If you look at television, promiscuity is part of the leaven of the world. It's okay to get out there and be physical with anybody you want to be physical with, and you all know what I'm talking about right now, right? Because I'm trying to speak high yet speak low. Okay, it's okay to be out there doing anything with anybody, but it's not. Because God says don't fornicate.
Yeah.
God says keep your bodies pure, a temple for me. So you see, the leaven of the world will have you think it's okay to be out there with everybody, but God says it's not. Because it's small. He's narrow. That's broad. The world says be tolerant. We're teaching tolerance. It's okay. Let's tolerate everything. Tolerate homosexuality.
Yeah, you're right.
Tolerate promiscuity.
Yeah.
It's okay, because if you don't tolerate it, then you are judgmental. Well, I want you to know, God didn't, when God said don't judge, He didn't mean don't have good common sense. Because when you judge something, you are having good common sense. But He said judgment is one of those multiple meaning words. He means don't condemn. In other words, you don't have a heaven or a hell to put anybody in. So you can't tell somebody who's out there practicing homosexuality that they're going to hell. Because God said Jesus has come down to this earth to save even the homosexuals. God said Jesus has come down to this earth to save the prostitutes. God said Jesus has come down to this earth to save the drug abusers. God said, I sent Jesus down here to love and to save everybody who has gotten out of place. You don't have a heaven and you don't have a hell to put anybody in. And that's what He means when He says don't judge. He means don't get up on that thing, be the judge and the convict, and said you are going to hell. But that does not mean don't have some good common sense for yourself. And filter out some of this stuff that's coming in. You have to decide what's right and wrong for you. You have to judge something. Is it right for me? Is it wrong for me? What path am I going to follow? Am I going to be narrow like this? Or am I going to be wide and broad with full of leaven from the world? Because God does not want us to be wide and broad. He says narrow is the path and narrow is the way that leads to me, and broad is the path and wide is the way that leads to destruction. So God does not want us out here not judging for ourselves. He just does not want us out here condemning others and telling them they're going to hell when they're not. Not unless they choose to. Because everybody in the last days, God said you can cry out on your deathbed and say, Jesus, save me, and you will be saved. That's exactly how come He said, and the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. Because like I said, I've been on this walk a long time. So I may be one of the first. I may be one of the last to go in. But somebody who has been in the world for a long time, really straddling the fence, on drugs, prostitute, doing everything they big and bad enough to do, gets a word from Jesus and say, you know what? You don't have to go to hell. I don't care how you've been living your life. You can save your soul. You may not do a whole lot for your body at this point, but you can save your soul. And when you tell them they can save their soul by crying out to Jesus, and they cry out to Jesus if they have lived 70 years in the world, and they cry out to Jesus in that 1 second before they close their eyes, they can go to heaven. Because Jesus came just for that purpose, because God loved us just that much. And